call.
Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again with
Tim, hi.
bringing you some more Desperate Housewives, Season 2, Episodes 4 to 6. Tommy will roll the credits and we'll chat. These were really good episodes. I feel bad that they totally underused Alfre Woodard. And she was only in it for like 3 minutes in like the second episode we watched in it. Which is probably why that storyline wasn't that popular.
True. She wasn't in it very much at all. What was it? It was the second episode you said she was in?
Episode 5, yeah.
Second episode of this part we're doing, but episode
Right.
5.
That was disappointing because I'm like, I thought I remembered it being a little bit bigger, but I know it's like slow building, but it's like, this is like extremely slow building. Whatever.
A side story to a side story.
Yeah, pretty much. So this one starts with Gabby. Gabby goes to jail. The inmates are being perverts to her, like, "Who girl? Hey, what's up?" and all that stuff, making nasty, whatever, nasty talk. She requests a conjugal visit to bang Carlos. She slaps her lawyer twice, and the guys kind of attack him because he like starts going off on her or whatever, yelling at her. I think you might call her a bitch or something.
Something like that, yes. A bitch.
And
dad. Yeah.
Yeah, and she takes it as a compliment that the men actually stand up for her in this situation. Carlos yells at Gabby for causing a ruckus, and she's like, "Listen, I'm just trying to get sex for us. Like, do you want sex? Like, you're in here forever long. I forget how long it is. Is it 7 years? I can't remember.
Maybe it's 5, 6 years. I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe it is 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I have 7. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, and he basically is like, get us a lawyer, and we'll figure it out, or get us a lawyer that will get us conjugal visits.
Yes.
We get Adrian Pazdar is David. Is introduced as David. I love this guy. He was in that show Heroes too. I don't know if you watched that.
No.
But he's great. He's in a lot of movies and stuff. But he's really cute, and they show him like banging a bunch of different ladies. So he always gets involved with his clients. It looks like
very involved. He makes them very happy.
Mm-hmm. Gabby tries to hire him, but he doesn't want the case. He tells her that her marriage is doomed and just walk away. Balls and judgy. David later calls Gabby. She goes to see him, tells him off. He comes on to her. She's like, I'm pregnant, dude. Like, what are you doing? And he takes the job. And I think she offers, originally, I think she says, like, he says 100 an hour. She's like 600 an hour. Get me what I want. The conjugal visits, obviously. Gabby and Carlos have 45-minute visit, and he already like stripped as he walked into the room, pretty much. So
he was ready. He was pent up.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. She asks them later on after the sex, "Are we gonna make it, you think?" And then later on, it talks about good fathers, and it shows Carlos holding Gabby, and he's like rubbing her belly because she is still preggers. I don't know how far along she's supposed to be, but she doesn't look that far along. But I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
maybe like a few months. I don't know.
Who knows?
This is like one of the longest pregnancies, I feel like, in TV.
But I think, there's so many people, like we have people at work where they're pregnant, and 1 week I don't see anything. Next week the baby pops out.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So who knows? Plus, it's the magic of Hollywood.
Yeah. So you can take it away with Mike and Susan.
All right. So Mike and Susan, typical stuff. They're trying to go on a casual date. They want to get back to like when it was their first date. No commitments. They're still in this trying to patch up the relationship after the whole Zach thing. Zach is part of the package, and basically Mike says to Susan, "You have to accept him, or you don't." Susan accepts Zach as Mike's son, but she can't accept him for Julie. So it does cause some tension. Susan and Susan, and later on, they go to a scene. They're trying to actually find Mike's son, Zach. And Susan's putting up flyers. Edie approaches her, and they have some chit chat back and forth. But Edie realizes that Susan is only doing it to getting Mike's good graces. She sort of makes some comments, Edie, to Susan, and Susan realizes, crap, I can't have him back in my life. He's going to get back to Julie. He's going to mess things up, all this stuff.
Yeah.
She's being protective mama bear for Julie. Because let's face it, Zach is troubled.
Very much is.
Doesn't think she's going to find him, and I think she kind of gives up. So we go to another scene. Mike and Susan are in the park, and they're putting up flyers. They're talking to social services, asking like where runaway kids are. This one park throughout is full of runaway kids. Susan goes to get ice cream, and when she gets ice cream for her and Mike, she happens to see Zach, and it's like, oh my God, Zach's in the park. Poor Zach looks a mess. He looks tired. You can tell he's sleeping on the street.
Yeah.
They end up talking. She chases after him. He runs. I think she hurts herself. She spills ice cream all down her shirt. So it looks like a wet T-shirt contest, but it's in front of her. Typical Susan, and all of her escapades and everything. Susan ends up finding. I think she bumps into Mike. She said, "Oh, I got his ice cream," and he's looking like, "Wow!" Like he just looks right at her. Again, it looks like a wet T-shirt contest.
Is that the time that he turned around, or because didn't he at one point turned around with like something like to threaten her, like he was going to hit her with something, and then she backed off?
That was when she went to go corner Zach, as she's trying
Right.
to get Zach. Eventually, Susan does find Zach again. She asks him not to run. That's when he goes to hit her. He's trying to defend himself because they're
Right.
after me.
Yeah.
He is still a kid. She's an adult. He's just trying to run away. He's not trying to hurt her, but now he's trying to defend himself. So she approaches him. She says, "Look, come home with me." She's thinking she'll make things better for Mike if I bring Zach back. And he starts to ask, "Well, why do you? There's nothing for me there." And then right away he thinks, "Oh, Julie's there for me. Julie's waiting for me." Again,
Yeah.
no interest. She did earlier. She felt bad for him, but she realized he has issues.
Yeah.
Then changes her mind, and he starts talking about his dad. My dad isn't there. My dad isn't there. Paul Young.
Oh, yeah.
So it's his adopted dad, not Mike. And
Right.
she basically says, "Oh, I think he went to Utah or something to look for you." So she offers Zach money and sends Zach on his way. Doesn't tell Mike at all that she sees Zach. So she gives money for Zach, I think, to go to Utah to go find his father.
Yeah.
Zach leaves, and it's just that's a sad scene. Like, I think that pretty much ended this scene for them. I think that was
She kind of had to.
I get it.
Well, yeah, but he is threatening to Julie. Like, I mean, he held a gun on Mike and her. Like, I mean, I don't know why Susan just doesn't tell the truth. I'd be like, listen, dude, I'm afraid of your son, and it's not going to work out. Like, if you're going to try to have him involved in it, I mean, he held us hostage. He's a danger. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just like a disaster waiting to happen for them.
Seen the anger from him, and remember, Felicia got beat up, so it's I forget her name, the woman that got killed in the very beginning, the nosy neighbor,
Mrs. Huber.
Mrs. Huber. Yes. Her sister Felicia, got beat up by Zach, and she really was
right.
Zach. She generally did have his best interest at heart. She felt.
So Lynette comes home from work. Everyone's asleep. Tom fills her in on Mrs. Mulberry, the new imaginary British nanny friend of Parker's, because I guess he got obsessed with Mary Poppins or something. So he's sleeping with an umbrella. So it's basically because she went back to work and he's, I guess, bothered by it, and he created this imaginary British woman. So Lynette wakes Parker to go get donuts or something, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot Mrs. Mulberry." So she like lets her in the car. Parker says he forgot her umbrella. She can't find the umbrella, so she brings the hat. She's like, "Oh, I brought her hat. Is that okay?" I love that. This cracked me up. He says the umbrella's in the shower, and she doesn't have time. She's like, "I don't have time for this." Like, and he gets out of the car. He's like, "I don't want to go for donuts anymore," or we don't want to go for donuts.
Yeah.
Meaning him and Mrs. Mulberry. How did he even create that name, Mulberry? Like, where did he get that from?
I don't know. It's kind of. I think she references Mary Poppins, the Mary Poppins wannabe, or she says something about it because that's what it reminds me of.
Right.
Rich nanny with an umbrella, like she's going to come gliding down.
So Lynette talks to the headmaster and the teachers about Parker at the school. He like hit one of the teachers by accident with the umbrella. They ask if there are any changes at home because he hurt one of the teachers, and she just like kind of cries. Did she was she fake crying like to just like get out of the situation, or was she really crying? I
I
couldn't
think
tell.
she generally cried. You saw the emotions. I think that's the thing with this actress. She's an amazing actress. For whatever scandal comes later in her life, the one that plays Lynette is a great actress. Like I watched her
She
cry,
really is.
her collapse, and it just
Felicity Huffman. I mean, she's Oscar
oh
nominated.
yeah,
So.
phenomenal actress.
Yeah. But the only
Here,
reason I say that too is because of how it ended, and when she cries at the end, it looked like she was actually crying more so at the end, and like this time, looked like she was just crying to get out of the situation. So Lynette and Tom talk. Um, he they talk like, "Do you want a hug or something?" Because Tom's trying to like calm her down. She goes to Parker. Mrs. Mulberry is reading to him. She tries to get through to him, like, it's okay. I'm still here for you. I just went back to work. I'm sorry. These two things are changing, and he ain't having it. He's like, I want to go back to my book. He like puts a sheet over his head, sends her on her way. Lynette checks when Parker's asleep. She gets the umbrella and throws it in the trash can.
yes.
The trash people come. The umbrella falls out of the trash can and pops open and lays in the street. So Lynette tells Parker that Mrs. Mulberry probably left. There's other kids. There's another kid in London. She made up this crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and they go to leave for school, and there's the umbrella, and he's like, "Mrs. Mulberry's back." The trash truck runs over
Yes,
Mrs. Mulberry,
and killed Mulberry.
and he actually like looks shocked, like, oh my god, this little kid's a good actor too. It cracks
Yeah.
me up. So later on, they talk about like the good fathers thing again, and good mothers. The guys Lynette sits there crying because Parker saw the fake nanny get run over by the garbage truck.
Yeah.
All right, Bree, George, and Andrew.
Okay, so the saga continues with Bree. Everything's not perfect on Wisteria Lane. So we go to a scene of Bree and George, and they're kissing. They just came back for a date. I think it's been 4 weeks since Rex has died or been buried. Andrew comes out and interrupts. Now, Andrew, I think, is such a complicated character as the seasons go on. You like him, you don't like him. He's good, he's bad. He redeems himself. He's an a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Andrew is still mourning the loss of his father. He's very protective of his mother, but he comes in and gets a little attitude to George. Bree invites George for a home-cooked meal on Friday. Andrew asks George to leave. It turns back and forth. He won't leave. Andrew basically tells him he tolerates, or I think maybe he said Bree tolerates him. He puts this thing in George's mind that Bree isn't really there for him or whatever, doesn't like him. They get into a shoving match. And was this calculated by Andrew? Did he do it? Did he mean to do it? Did he not do it? Again, he's a teenager going through emotions. He just lost his father. But he was being a jerk to George. George is a jerk, we know.
And a killer.
Hear them shoving. Like, enough, stop. Bree, we get another scene of Bree and Andrew. Andrew goes to leave the house, hanging with his friend. She says, "You can't leave like that." He's like, "Why not? I'm going to hang with my friends." "You will not leave without a collared shirt on and, looking like you're basically out of a J. Crew catalog, and Bree's perfect." And I sort of feel bad for Andrew this way because he can't be a teenager. So George comes to dinner. What was it? Or George is coming to dinner. Andrew doesn't want him to come. She says, "Look, he will not replace your father." Andrew says he's been dead less than a month, 4 weeks. And they go back and forth. And basically she tells, I think, Andrew that he's coming to dinner. He's going to come to dinner when George is there.
Right.
We go to the next scene of dinner with Bree and George. And George seem to be getting along. They're being nice, they're cordial. And Bree's singing, "This is wonderful." She goes out to the kitchen to go get, I think, the dessert or something. And Andrew starts to laugh at George, like his jokes and everything. But the second leaves, Andrew and George start going at it together, back and forth. George sort of steps in and tells Andrew to go to his room. Now, they've only been on 4 weeks of dating since Rex died, even though they had dates in the past. So she will not take sides. He's like, Bree, you need to take my side. And you can see Bree sort of shocked because this is not their father. They're still dating. He has not moved in, and George is trying to take over.
He really has no right. Like,
He does.
that's just, he's crazy.
He's delusional. There is one thing that happened during the scene that plays out later. She brings up dessert, and she apologizes that not all the dessert plates match. It was her great aunt's, we'll say from Philly. I don't remember where the china came from, but she's missing one spode Florentine piece of china. So when they mention this, the first thing I think is George is going to find this china. But you think it's just part of the scene. Later on, George and Bree are eating watermelon. After this whole thing happens, the fight happens with Andrew at the table, with going to your room and everything. George storms off because Bree will not take his side. She's being defensive. She's being a mama bear. You know, you kind of want her to do that. We go to another scene, and George and Bree are eating watermelon on the back patio, I think. They talk about Andrew acting out. George suggests counseling. She says, look, he was not happy the last time he was at the camp. And he said, well, he's a lot like me when I was younger. He kind of plays this bit like, he's like me, discipline him now, and things will work out. So later we go to a scene of Andrew's swim meet, and George walks in with a bag of gifts for Bree. And Andrew is just getting ready to dive in the pool. He gives the bag to Bree. He gives, I think Bree goes to give him a big hug. He kisses Bree. It pisses Andrew off. Inside this bag is that plate I was talking about. George found the missing plate. Very rare, hard to find, very expensive. He found a missing plate that matches her great Aunt Tilly's china, whatever. There's a peck on the cheek. Andrew sees this. He gives up the race, so pre-lap race, swimming. He gets out of the pool, and he punches George.
He swam into another kid, too, on his way over.
Oh, yeah. I think But so
I was like, damn.
Scene where it looks like Andrew's acting out. Andrew is, but George is playing all this. He made Andrew angry. He knows what to do. He's pushing his buttons, which is because you just push a kid's buttons. It's not an adult, it's a kid.
Yeah.
We end this scene with Bree is packing and sending Andrew to camp again. The camp that he did not like, the camp that he felt like he was going to die in. And it's sad because she kind of believed what George did. So
yeah, and Andrew has a history. Once you have a history of being a little shithead, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, people don't believe about your spots. They do sometimes, but they can, redeem themselves. But I don't know.
I forget if I said the episode title. It was "My Heart Belongs to Daddy." In case I did,
yeah,
episode 4. All right, so episode 5 is "They Ask Me Why I Believe in You." These long ass titles. Carrie Fisher's sister, Jolie Fisher, returns as Lynette's boss. Mary Alice is talking in the beginning about Lynette and Nina. Lynette tries to kiss her ass, basically gives her gifts. Everything she does doesn't really work. She takes her out for a drink. She talks about she talks about a boyfriend, like Lynette does, or Nina doesn't have a boyfriend or whatever. So Lynette actually kind of acts like a wing woman for her. And then we see Nina coming in the next day, very happy, like she got laid. So she's very cool now. Nina asks Lynette to go out again the next day for a quick drink. She agrees reluctantly, kind of. She's like, oh, all right, we'll go out again. Later on, Nina wants Lynette to go out a third time and basically threatens taking a client away from her. Yeah. And she even says, when they're out, she's like, get me that guy. She picks a man that's hot and wants him. Nina's something else. Why don't you try to hook up with the same guy again? What the fuck?
Yeah, well, she said she hadn't had sex in 20 years or something. Her career came first.
So now she's just banging all the men?
Yeah, and then she goes out and she realizes, hey, this is fun. Because I think she came back after a night out on the town with a gentleman. She came to wear clothes. So I think she finally had some after 20 years. But she got
and during this time, Lynette is not seeing her family, so she goes to work. She goes out with Nina. She goes home. Everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
Every night. So Lynette and Nina are out a fifth night. Nina goes to the dance floor and like dances with this dude. We have this guy that hits on Lynette. His name's Chuck. She's like, I'm happily married. He's like, oh, I'm happily married too. Like he has a ring. I'm like, oh, these people. She's like, get your hand off my thigh, mister. Then she comes up with an idea. She's like, maybe I will sex it up a little bit and get out on the dance floor. So she goes to the bathroom. I think she has like a work vest on. She takes her blouse off, just wears the vest, looking all hot. Starts dancing up on Nina's man out there. She does shots. She dances on the bar like Coyote Ugly,
Yeah.
which was out a few years before that. Um, and it's great. And then later on at the end, they do show that Lynette finally gets some family time. So she won that round against Nina. Yay! Um, Now I will introduce like our first Susan storyline. We have Wallace Shawn as Lonnie. What's his
Lonnie,
name?
Lonnie,
Lonnie Moon.
yeah.
I will point out some of Wallace Shawn's history of soaps. He was on One Life to Live in 1992 as Professor Marvel, Edge of Night in 1982. Of course, we all know him from The Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was also on Gossip Girl, the original Gossip Girl, and he was in one episode of the new one, which was the reboot. So, and he's in a ton of stuff. So it's nice to have him. So you can have him in Susan's storyline.
Okay, so we start off with Susan. Susan's been through many things in her life, like her breakup and everything, but she had one person that was always there. It was Lonnie Moon. The Lonnie Moon, I think, was her, what is he? Like,
Children's book
yeah,
publicist.
publicist, I think. Yeah, so he takes care of, he was there when she had a breakup with Carl, right? Carl was the husband, the first husband.
Yeah.
Broke up with Carl. He took her on a fun vacation. He's always there for her. He's been through the best times, the worst times, including when Julie was born. So we open with Susan getting a knock from the door. It's Lonnie. He says, she's like, what are you doing here? And he said, I couldn't come before noon. It's not socially acceptable to drink. He offers her a drink, I think. You think he brings alcohol. He basically said he's starting his own firm. He's leaving his agency. She says, okay, well, I'll just give him a call and say I'll go with you because she's known him all of her life. He's been there, supported her, all of her books, everything. He says, no, don't call the agency. Everything's fine. They know. And she's like, no, I need to do it. It's the right thing to do. It turns out Lonnie messed up business-wise. Lonnie was meddling. He was cooking the books. And it's kind of like all those Ponzi schemes, and we experienced this. I think around this time, there's a few big ones in the U.S., like companies that went under and investment firms. But basically, it was a pyramid scheme, and he was stealing from one client to repay money to another client. So it was just shifting money around. She's debating whether she's going to go with him or not. He tells her the whole truth, I think, or maybe doesn't tell her the truth. He tries to tell her to go with him. We go to another scene. Susan and Mike are reading the contract from Lonnie. He says, I don't think you should go with her, Mike. And then Susan says, Lonnie's family. He paid my rent. He took care of me when Carl left me. He was there when Julie was born, all these things. Susan looks at Mike. He basically says, he's like, Susan, he committed a felony. And she's looking at him like, I don't think you're the one to tell me about who I should judge and who I shouldn't judge because you were a criminal as well. Like, you had a past. So she's still very forgiving. Mike is not. We get another scene of Julie, and Julie saw Zach. Julie and Susan are talking. Susan admits she had seen Zach. She's like, well, what did you do? I gave him money to go away, and I didn't tell him. And Julie is like, what the heck are you doing? Like, Julie, again, a teenager, she's grown up, she's raised herself. She's taking care of her mother when her mother fell apart when Carl left her. So many times she's more the adult than Susan is.
Which seems to be Susan and her mother Sophie's relationship as well.
Yes.
Kind of funny.
It's a shame.
Runs in the family.
But she basically says, like, are you ever going to tell him? Susan, we get another scene. Susan goes to see Lonnie. I think she signs a contract. I was getting ready to sign the contract. She goes to his door and she notices all the furnishings are gone from his house. Lonnie's saying, oh, the wife's out of town and everything else. She's out of town with the kids, extended time seeing family. And then I think she goes to turn on the light switch. She said, "Here, let me just turn on a light." The lights don't work. So the furniture's all gone. The lights are out.
That checks off.
And the kitchen is a mess. You can tell he doesn't cook. So it's like just takeout containers and trash everywhere. She kind of asked him, "Why didn't you tell me everything was going on? You didn't steal any of my money, though." And he didn't say no right away. So eventually it comes up that he did take her money, just a little bit. He promised to pay everything back. He says I think at this point had signed the contract, and he's trying to grab it from her hands. They're wrestling, and he makes this comment that made me laugh. He says, "Get off of me, you Amazon." Now, anyone that knows Amazon, women, they're considered like heroic women. Like Wonder Woman is an Amazonian, right?
Yeah.
And all this urban legend. I love that they put this in here. Amazon, and Susan's like, "What? Like, what did you call me?" And I think she gets a hold of the contract and she tears it up. And basically, she tells Lonnie that, like, "Look, I know you're my friend. I know you did all this stuff, but I can't go with you, Lonnie. I'm sorry." And so I sort of feel bad for this guy, but I don't, because again, he did what he did, and it sucks.
Yeah.
She said she'll always be his friend, but she cannot support him. She cannot do this.
Doesn't he come on to her?
I think he does at one scene. He tries to kiss her. Oh, because I had that written down. It didn't make sense to me. He calls her, or she calls him my Lonnie. He calls her his Susan, and because it was during the scene they were going to sign, he went to go kiss her and said, like, "We can have a wonderful life together." I think that's what she's like. "I'm not attracted to you," and then she sort of pulled away. He's like, "But I've always been there, and you've always been in my life," and I think that was part of the thing. She
was using it as like a nickname for like a cutesy nickname, and he's like thinking like it's a romantic thing, I guess.
And I guess that's probably why he was always there for her. He always had this romantic notion in his mind, even though he's married and a kid and he didn't act on it.
Right.
In this moment of horrible, whatever, weakness and the chaos he created. So she says at the very end, she'll be friends with him, but she can't support him. She can't go with his independent firm, and he has to face the music. Lonnie, you didn't have to face it. And that's their storyline for this. Susan's storyline's over for this. It's sad though. Poor Lonnie.
So poor Lonnie. And that's the last time we see him. He doesn't come back. Yeah. Gabby and Carlos talk about their baby coming. David's coming to the jail today to meet Carlos. He looks suspicious of David. He's like, he just doesn't. He sees that David's a good-looking man, and he's like, I don't think so, and just like turns around and leaves.
Yeah.
Gabby and Carlos are at a prison. I don't even know what this was. I'm like, it looked like what is it called? An Alcohol Anonymous meeting. It was just like prisoners sitting around in a circle telling their stories. I'm like, does that happen at prison?
Well, AA, they have NA and all those things. I guess they do. They probably have meetings, and we don't know.
Well, yeah, it happens in prison here in the show. So they're all telling stories. They tell him about David. He's all jealous, and I think he said something like he looks like an underwear model. So he's not happy with that. Yeah. David goes to see Gabby. She tells him that Carlos is jealous. He says he says he will talk to him, and he takes her wine. David and Gabby go to see Carlos. He says that he slept with Gabby, and says he will pursue Gabby if he fires him. Carlos says he's my lawyer. They show David helping Carlos at the end of that one. That's it for them. Very backburnered, I feel like. For them.
Yeah. I mean, their story's there, and you kind of see some episodes are all about one character, and you barely see a character. But, I mean, it was important stuff there.
You could take it away with Brie.
All right, so Brie. Brie's still not the perfect world. We go into a scene with her. She's with the police. They say no charges have been filed because, again, she was accused of killing her husband. And she's ready for the release the body because they had to dig her husband up. They said no charges have been filed. We'll release the body. But there's I think the police detective threatened something else to her. So, maybe it was about the note. Maybe he mentioned the note here. So Bree threatens to sue with Rex's money because he was a doctor. He had money. And then they said, fine, we'll put Rex back. And she said, no, I will handle the reburying. I will do it. So she leaves the police station, I guess. And the girls are all together playing poker. And Bree says she has some good news. They're releasing Rex's body. So I need you all available on Friday. And they're like, what's going on Friday? We're going to rebury Rex. Danielle's away and Andrew's off at Camp Hennessy again. She doesn't really elaborate, but she says, so I need all of you to be there. And right away, Edie says, I can't. And she makes lots of excuses. I have some plans. And the girls kick Edie under the table and say, you have to come. So they kind of, like, they're trying to, and I feel bad because they're trying to make Edie accepted in this group. They're trying to, like, really push. Bree says, like,
they don't make it easy.
Bree says, this is my last chance to say goodbye. And then we go up to her picking up the body. She goes to pick up the body. She's all dressed nicely. The body's in a body bag. She says, I'm right here, sweetheart. I'll take care of everything. You can always count on me. And this is like an affectionate moment. And she's sitting over her dead husband's corpse. She thanks them for the kindness. And there was a whole thing of he sort of threatens her again. And she said, the doctor thinks that you may have done it. And she's like, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. Well, that's all Rex thought. So basically, I think they gave her the copy of the evidence. Maybe it was an actual evidence in the bag. But it's the note that Rex wrote as he was dying in the hospital. He said, I forgive you. It just says, Brie, I forgive you. So the whole thing of, what was it? There's like a manipulation. Was she cheating? So she
pisses her off.
Yeah, she makes some comment. She says, well, a judge will believe you if you start to, or he says, a judge will believe you if you start telling the truth now. She says, I didn't do it. I'm leaving. She grabs her husband. I think she leaves. She walks up the door. She takes him out herself. And then we get to a scene where Bree is going to bury the body. The girls are all waiting in the cemetery. And Bree comes over and Bree goes, girls, no, over this way. They're like, what do you mean? We're right here at Rex's grave. And they said, oh, no. He's not good enough. I'm not going to lay next to him for eternity. And she walks over and she said, no, I'm reburying him. And she said, he's going to live. He's going to eternally be with strangers. He's not going to be next to me. So, like, what was it? She basically says to the girls, Rex thinks I killed him. How can I lay next to him? And she said, I cooked and cleaned for that man for 19 years. I kept a beautiful house, which, again, is part of a couple. And she did. She kept a beautiful house. She kept everything together. She made Rex look good. She said, I'll forgive him. And my heart went out to Brie at this point. And she said, I don't want to decompose with him. He can decompose with strangers. And that's what he is way off on the side road against a road, but he's against, I think, a fence. Like, and it wasn't where they had their tombs and their part of the cemetery were nice. This is like the pauper section of the cemetery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then she buries him, and that's it. We leave that scene. That's Bree's story.
And then we have Alfred Woodard, who was finally on this episode as Betty. She brings Edie her mail that she got. I guess the mailman's been sucking in the neighborhood. He's bringing all the wrong mail to the wrong people. She sees the news and she goes back home. She's like, oh, somebody was arrested for whatever. Matthew, her son, sees the note. Oh, Betty is writing a letter with gloves on, and she says, like, bring Caleb dinner. And then we see that Melanie Foster was on the news, and I guess she was either murdered, raped. We don't even know what happened. Matthew sees the note and questions her about it. When she leaves, she doesn't lock the door from the basement where Caleb is. I think they say, like, he's confused. He's not a killer or something.
Yeah.
He hears them and he goes back into the basement. So I guess he knows that it's dangerous for him out there. Be quiet!
Get the wire hanging. Well, I think what they say is they made a comment about, we know he's not a killer, but they won't know that. They're going to put him to death. And that's when he realizes and goes back in.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
He's like, no, I don't want to die.
Better let them handle that. We see detectives talking about the letter. But was that... now I'm confused at which letter it was. Were the detectives talking about Bree's letter or this Betty's letter?
Well, this is a different scene with the detectives. So they're talking about the letter... Here they're talking about the letter
Betty wrote?
Betty's Applewhite's letter.
Okay.
The one she wrote with gloves on, and basically, I think it says because I think they said they found the killer. That's why they thought they were free. And basically, she writes a letter. You did not find the killer. You had the wrong person. She couldn't let it alone. She couldn't leave her son alone. I think it's almost like she wants him to still atone for it, but she doesn't want them to catch him. That's why I don't understand this whole part of Betty. But it's the handwritten letter she did with the gloves on, or however she put it together.
Yeah, yeah.
It's basically saying, no, you had the wrong person. Someone else killed. I killed whoever. And I guess she's writing from the son's perspective.
Yeah, so still a lot of mystery that we don't know exactly what's going on, which is the same as the first season. They had the mystery. But I feel like the mystery in the first season was like more prominent, and like every episode there was a little something.
Yeah.
Where this, like, you almost forget there's a new neighbor. And then the end, Paul returns.
Yes.
And then we go on to episode 6, which is called I Wish I Could Forget You. Leslie Ann Warren returns as Sophie, Susan's mother. And I guess you could take it away with them.
I think it kind of opens up with them. So you said the title is I Wish I Could Forget. They start talking about weddings, and they say every little girl dreams of a big wedding. And you open the scene of Susan trying on. I know it's actually Sophie has in the wedding dress. Susan's trying to pin it, and I think she's trying to fit into her old wedding dress. And Susan says, "Mom, you're going to need to go to a seamstress." She then suggests that Susie try on the dress. You know, she calls her Susie. We all call her Susan. She suggests that Susie try on the dress, and she said something about Mike might want our own wedding dress. He may not want me to rewear one from you or whatever. Mike sort of comes in, and I think he said that Susan can have whatever dress she wants. Sophie takes it as, is that a proposal? They're all getting excited. You know, it seems happy. And basically it seems like Mike wants to marry Susan. So that goes on. They're trying the dress. Susan and her mother, Sophie, are getting excited. We go to... Oh, this is where... And this is where Susan's getting groceries. And they talk about... Bree and Gabby are on the phone. They said, did you see who returned? And they're talking. This is where they noticed that Paul Young has returned. There was mail piling up on his porch for weeks. Seen the last episode. It's been piling up. They suddenly see Paul outside, and he's taking in all the mail, and he's mowing the lawn. Bree and Gabby are calling each other on the phone. Susan's coming up with groceries. Do you think Susan noticed? They're like, no, she hasn't noticed yet. They're watching her, watching this unfold. She goes to take the grocery bags. She turns and sees Paul. She drops everything, like shocked, like what the heck. Paul, trying to be a gentleman, walks up, grabs the groceries, he goes to hand them to her, and she is scared. She backs away. They go back and forth. He said, like, look, Mike didn't kill him, but he wanted to come back, and he said he was coming back for his son. Bree came up to come defend Susan. They said that they know that Paul murdered Martha Huber. And they talk about, I think they talk about what they know. They decide they're going to call the cops. They bring the cops there. The cops come. They said that he murdered Martha Hubert. Well, how do you know this? Well, Mike had heard him confess it. Well, how did Mike hear it? The problem is he heard it when he kidnapped and went to go kill. So they have all these questions. They're all following everybody. And I think they go to knock on the door and finally to ask Mike, like, well, who is this Mike? Well, he's my fiance, he's my boyfriend. They're going to ask Mike what happened, and he denies everything in front of the cops and all the neighbors. I understand why he did it, and it sucks for Susan, but he made Susan look like an ass. But again, he is a police officer. He has a record. He has a whole history. He was out on probation. How would it look if he had a gun? How would it look if he kidnapped Paul Young? Even if Paul did go and kill Martha, Mike would go back to jail because he broke all the requisites for his probation to be out of jail, you know?
Right.
He's going to go back to jail. So he said that's why he did it. It turns in they're fighting. They're going back and forth. We go to whatever. She's shocked by it, but she walks away. We go to another scene, and Susan is doing some plumbing in the kitchen, which you think, why is she doing plumbing? She's going to marry a plumber. You know what I mean?
Right.
And someone knocks. She just says, come in. Suddenly you see Paul Young enter the scene. She gets shocked. She stands up and he said, "What?" She said, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "You told me to come in." She's like, "I didn't think it was you." Back and forth.
She's very scared of Paul Young.
she's very scared of Paul Young. She's scared she's going to die. And again, Zach is scary too, like the stepson. So
Mm-hmm.
he's looking for Mike. Mike isn't here. She is reaching for anything she can. I think she had a wrench, but she's looking for a knife in the sink. And I think Paul picks something up.
Paul was looking for Zach, I think, in the scene because remember he said Zach was here before or something. And,
That's why he came, because I think he saw one of the flyers.
yeah.
It was in his mail at his house. It went through everything. So I think at this point he picks up the knife and then hands it to her. He asks where his son is. It gets really creepy. And I think she just said, "Oh, he went to go look for you in Utah." Why would he go to Utah? Well, he went to Utah, but I don't think she tells him here where she gave him money. Maybe she did. I forget. Oh no, she did say, "I gave him the money for him to take a bus to go find you," because she literally thought he was in Utah. You know what I mean? She just thought he was out of town. So eventually, we come to Mike approaches Paul. He tells him to take it easy. They talk about like what happened in both their past. He makes some suggestion about poison to kill something in the yard. It's Paul Young makes some suggestion about poison, and they go back and forth. And Paul just sounds like he's a creep at this point. Sounds like a murderer the way he talks about being careful with poison for the yard. They talk about Susan. They talk about going to Utah. He basically lets Mike know that he knows where Zach is. He's going to go find him. Zach went to Utah. Well, why is it Zach in Utah? Because Susan gave him money to go find me. Didn't she tell you?
Oops.
And basically, like, I get why Paul did it. Paul's basically trying to ruin Susan's life now, which sucks. So we go to another scene of, Mike looks furious. We get another scene, and Susan and her mother, Sophie, are trying on the wedding dress again. Mike comes in and says, "I need to ask you something really important." They both think it's a proposal. Sophie is going to get her camera or her phone or whatever to take. I think at this point it was cameras. I don't remember if the phones had cameras.
Yeah, it was cameras.
She says she's scared of the question. She's like, "Well, just ask it." And he said it's a yes or no question. And then he basically says about Zach, "Did you give money to Zach to go to Utah?" It's yes or no. And she said, "I got scared." He said, yes or no. That's all he wants, yes or no. He doesn't want an explanation. She starts to cry a little bit. She says yes. He starts to leave, and he says, "Susan, we're done." She goes out. She's running after him. She's crying. She still has a wedding dress on.
She does explain. She does try to explain. Once he brought up Jolie that she couldn't do it. Yeah,
to protect her daughter, and I get it. But Mike, and like she lied to him, and I sort of get that part of it too. It's a really difficult scene.
It is
together, but Susan is running after him. He's leaving. She's running out in the wedding dress. You see her collapsing, shouting his name, crying hysterically. And this brought me to tears. She's in the wedding dress, collapsing. And there are Bree and Gabby who see all this happening. They see Mike leaving. And they can console her. And they are, I'm trying not to cry saying this, they are really good neighbors and friends to her. Like for all that goes on with Wisteria Lane, they're really there for each other when stuff happens. So Young sees this, and I think Paul smiles at Sophie and the girls and everything else. At the end of the scene, what they talk about, every girl dreams of a big wedding, but not all dreams come true. And it's a shame because you see this scene, this episode ends with Susan crying and the girls holding her. And it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah. So my girl Lynette was a little bit backburnered in this episode. It was just kind of a silly storyline for her. So Jolie Fisher's back as Nina. Nina asked Lynette not to wear her green suit or her gray suit to the next meeting for this client that they're doing. I think it's for vodka or something. And she's like, "Well, I have other suits. Like, whatever." She's trying to like cover. She only has 3 suits. She hasn't bought a new suit or new clothes in like the past 5 years. So Lynette shows off this new white outfit that she gets. Like it's a nice like long skirt. Shows Tom, and it's $900. And Tom's like, "No, we can't afford this. No, what are you doing?" Step out. She wants to be alone with it for a while because she has to bring it back to the store. So she's sad about it because Tom will not let her have it. Lynette goes to work. She sneaks the outfit in the trunk. Of course, you keep the price tag on so you can return it after wearing it. Nina compliments Lynette on her new suit. Lynette's like, "Oh, I had this in the closet for years or something." It's like, you can tell it's like brand spanking new. especially
Yeah.
because it's white. She always has like kid vomit on her other clothes and shit. Lynette does the campaign or the whatever it is for the vodka meeting, and Nina sees the tag on her skirt and like goes up to her and like rips it off her, and she's like, oh yeah, they put them on skirts now. I don't know if Nina was actually being nice or like a dick in this scene. I really couldn't
I
tell.
think she was being a dick because she saw it and she sort of smiled and smirked.
Yeah, so I guess she could have hit it or like pointed it out to her if she wanted to. Stop. um,
He's like, yeah,
Lynette tells Lynette tells Tom that she kicked butt with the suit on and she wants to keep it. And she brings out these golf clubs that she bought like these really expensive golf clubs. And she's like, these can make us better people. And she lets him she rubs the golf club on him or something, and like he like pretends to play with it, and like that's about it. That's all we got for that. And then you got Brie.
I got Bree. All right. So we start off with Bree's story, and it actually starts off with George. They talk about how he's never been lucky in love. Every time he goes to commit with any previous relationship, there's always an excuse of why. Here's my baby. My baby's come to see me. So there he is. He's never been lucky in love. Every time he goes to commit to somebody or he thinks the relationship's going somewhere, the girls break up with him. And in Bree's case, they're out somewhere and she starts to develop a rash. She has no idea why. Something's giving her hives. She doesn't know what it is. She says George, and she thinks it's him. She realizes it's around him. She's starting to get hives. She kept touching her hand, and she's itching everywhere. So she kicks him out. Bree goes to a therapist. Oh, my baby's crying. Therapist, and she says every time George tries to kiss me, I break out in these hives. And he's like, why do you think that is? They link it to Rex. He basically says, since you've been here, you keep touching your wedding ring. You keep twirling it around. You know, like people do that when you have them. You twirl them around, you play with them.
Right.
She is still reaching for a finger. Even though the wedding ring is not on, she still reaches for that finger where their wedding ring was, her and Rex. So he says, you're not over her, or not over him, and this is why I think it's happening. So go to another scene, and, I think Bree's sort of shocked by this. I don't think she believes it, but they go out somewhere else. Bree and Gabby are playing poker. It's about Paul being home, the mowing the lawn, all that stuff. Susan, that whole thing that happened where Susan dropped the things. I think later after the scene, so just a quick poker, they recap there. And then we go to Bree calling George. She says, look, George says he has these antihistamines that might really help her. He's a pharmacist. She says, you know what? I want you to get a motel out of town. We're going to go stay a weekend. We're going to do all these things. He's jubilant. He's excited. He's jubilant that he's going to finally get away with her. They're going to check in the hotel, and I think they're looking at the brochures, and the person says Mr. and Mrs. and whatever George's last name is. And he goes, oh, no, we're not married. Bree panic a little bit because they just started to talk about how for her it was the highest point with the whole marriage issue. She still feels like she's married to Rex, even though Rex is dead. She is, but he's dead. So he says, look, I can get those histamines. We can try to help you. And then she at some point, she says something. She wants to just go have a fun time with them. And he's like, we could do anything else. We could do things besides sex. I'll get another room. She's like, no, you don't have to get another room. And suddenly the hives stop. So George catch on. They're at dinner later, and they're about going horseback riding and all these things. And George says, look, I brought these histamines. It might really help you. And she pulls me up the table, and she's like, but I thought you can't take them with wine. And he says, well, you can have a little bit. It's not too bad. Well, you really can't mix histamines and wine. Brie gets really, sloppy, drunk. But it's histamines and wine. You're not supposed to mix it. He goes up to the room, and you think, oh, my God, this is where it gets creepy. She doesn't want to have sex with him. He takes her all the way to a room. He puts her on the bed, and you think, the way he looks, you're like, he's going to rape her. That's what I thought. And they lead up the scene. I think he takes off her shoes, whatever, but leaves her in her dress or the outfit she had on in bed. She wakes up. She apologizes. I'm sorry, the antihistamine is going to be sloppy. George was just sitting there on a chair, and George never did have sex with her. I don't think he did. Maybe he did. We're led to believe he didn't.
I don't think so.
So
he could have, though. I don't remember.
Could have, yeah, and I don't remember that. I think that may come out later. She wakes up,
could.
Embarrassed. She apologized. He's watching her. He threatens to leave her. he's basically putting her in a tough place. He's playing her emotions. She begs him to stay. Please don't go. Stay. He said, you're just going to break out another rash. She said, I'm going to have to get over it. And she goes, I think she kisses him. And then they sleep together, which is really creepy. It just
Yeah, George is a creeper.
yeah, and he gives me the skeevies as we watch this more and more play out. George is a psychopath.
So Gabby and David, he says to her to dress maternal when she comes to court. But she doesn't. She's Gabby and she dresses hot and sexy like she always does. This guy Lewis is on. This guy Lewis, I feel like he plays like a crazy man in everything. Like I feel like I've seen him before in something and I can't place it. So he interrupts. David tells him he's creepy and to go get a friend. And he pulls out a gun and shoots and throws his gun at David, right? Yeah, and he runs away.
Yeah.
David gets shot by the guard because the guard thinks that he's the one that had the gun. He's like, no, no, no. And then I think he gets shot in the arm or something.
Yeah.
Or like the shoulder, maybe. And then Gabby had seen, Paul mowing the lawn, so that's her one scene with that. Gabby visits David. He says that she's the first one to visit, and he thought he was going to die the other day, and thanks for not like making any jokes or anything. And she feeds him. Carlos, his child's here, and I guess they're trying to get him out of jail. David goes. He wants to make them dismiss the case so that he'll be going home, but then he gets up, he just stops talking and walks out. And they're like, what's going on here? Gabby chases him and he says, the other day I realized I was in love with you. I'm like, literally just met her like the day before. Gabby apologizes to Carlos. He says, have sex with David and thinks that it was a setup. She's like, no, I've been faithful. I've been faithful since you've been in prison.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to get David back. Pack up your shanks or whatever you have, whatever you guys make, and we're going to go. No, while like the guards are around and stuff. He's like, I don't have shanks. um, Gabby goes to David. It looks like she's going to try to like seduce him and sleep with him. She offers an affair. He's like, no, I want all or nothing. And then he kisses her, and she's like, see, you don't love me. You were going to have an affair. Like, she's like, I told you I wasn't going to leave Carlos or anything. You're still working for us. Meet me at the courthouse or whatever. And then at the end, it ends with, like, I think Gabby and Bree see Paul. This is where Susan's walking down the street crying or whatever, and she's part of that mess as well.
Yeah.
And we don't see Betty. Where the hell's Betty?
Oh. Yeah.
And another one too. I noticed Richard Burgess he joined the cast this season. He's been in like one episode. He's Carl. I'm like, where is he?
Coming, I think later. I don't remember how he comes in, but
No, I know, but he was already in like the one episode, but they added him as a cast member full time, and he's only been in one episode since in the first 6 episodes. So I thought that was kind of weird. But whatever. I don't know how things work. I'm sure he got paid because his name was in the credits. So
I would imagine you get paid every time your name's in the credits, and probably you get paid more depending on.
I think so because credits I think is when you're like contract, so you make the money. I guess even though you're not they're not using them. Edie wasn't on too much. She was on a little bit here and there. So that's it. Doesn't Edie have a son that comes back eventually?
He does, and I forget. I think someone mistakes the son for someone that she might be sleeping with, and we find out it's the son. Because if I'm not
yes, you're right. You're right.
He's like a guy.
Yeah, she like never talks about him, and then like all of a sudden he comes, and I can't remember if it's like later this season or maybe even the third. I guess they probably just wrote him in. They probably originally didn't want her to have a son, and then just like created one.
And I think once he's gone, you don't see him again, like later in other seasons. So I think it's
really. Yeah, I don't remember when the gay guys come on either.
I forget they're after the Italian family that moves in. So Betty, there's just one house in the street, 1 or 2 houses where people keep moving in and moving out.
Right.
One of them is the house that Betty Applewhite. that she's
Right,
in.
I know. When Betty leaves, I know. What was her name? I can't remember, but the girl from
Oh,
Sons of Anarchy, she does too. Drea De Matteo, that was the Italian family that you're talking about for the third season, and Dana Delaney might come in the third season as well. I think there's two that come in.
and let's not forget. Eventually, we have the former Miss America, her lost, who gave up her title, who we saw.
Yes,
Today. She
who
comes.
got her who got her title back too
I know,
in
right?
recent years.
Oh, and she deserves.
Only like 2 years ago it happened. Vanessa Williams.
You think about it, morals and ethics change in society, and we don't frown upon that kind of stuff nowadays. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can have those scandalous pictures taken, and you can end up in the highest office in the land. You know, like
Yep.
things are changed. They're different. So,
There was a scandal back then.
but we have lots of interesting stars coming in the next few seasons, and like,
Yes.
and I can't wait to see it all unfold again.
I know. I can't either because I just again it's Alfred Woodard and she's such a good actress and it kills me that they don't use her the way they should
I know.
I think that was their mistake. I think I remember like when it was on, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's not as good as the first season. It's not as good as the first season," because they didn't keep the mystery going in every episode like they did in the first season. Like
Yeah.
it's they concentrated. I feel like they focused more on Susan, like we had talked about in the past, or whatever.
I think it sort of turns into stories, or Susan's story as the episodes go on. I think she's more the focus, but a lot of shows did that. Look at Family Matters, where Urkel was a side character.
Oh gosh,
He became the main character, and Will and Grace loved it, and I loved Jack and Karen, but Jack and Karen became the main character, so to speak, and they were side.
yeah.
It it happens to every show, so
And I always liked Will and Grace better, but that's just me.
yeah, exactly
But
right.
anyway, anything else to say about Desperate Housewives? These episodes specifically.
No, I think that's it. I can't wait to see everything unfold. It's fun to remember the stories and remember how everything happens. You know, because
I know.
it's been over 10 years.
I guess Leslie Ann Warren's character is going to get married to Bob Newhart's character at some
Yeah.
point. Is that why? I guess that's why she was trying to win the wedding dress.
Yes.
All right. Well, let us let us know what you thought of Desperate Housewives. Who were your favorites? Subscribe, like, comment. Thank you, Patreon members, and see you next time.